He's not one of us. The words froze the air. A nearby spoon clinked against glass like a bell of warning. Derek didn't turn his head. He'd heard that tone before at 16 in a library, at 22 at a hotel desk, at 30 on the day a banker called him lucky instead of capable. He took another sip, calm, controlled. But his eyes shifted to the reflection in the window. The barista, the whisperer, the manager glancing his way as if verifying suspicion. It wasn't new. What was new was that this was his cafe. His name hung right above their heads in metal letters, Hail Brews, yet none of them had noticed. A customer in line, tall, polished, white shirt and tie, laughed at something the clerk said. The laughter landed like permission. Derek's jaw tightened, then relaxed again. He reached for his cup, set it down carefully, the movement deliberate, every inch of restraint a lesson carved from years of endurance. He glanced at his watch. 7 a.m. The time they'd start internal audits. Coincidence? Maybe not. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to Derek. The barista leaned on the counter. Hey, sir, just so you know, refills are for members only. Her tone was wrapped in courtesy, but her eyes weren't. Derek nodded once. Good to know. His voice was calm enough to disarm, but the pause afterward carried something heavier than anger memory. He remembered his first store opening. 12 people, 2 espresso machines, a dream built from nights he couldn't afford to sleep. He'd promised himself that every location would feel safe, welcoming, equal. And yet here he was, invisible in his own design. A soft mechanical click came from the POS terminal. The clerk whispered again, lower now. Told you he's just sitting here, no laptop, no order. Probably waiting for someone. Derek rose slowly, collected his cup, and walked toward the counter. The sound of his shoes against tile felt louder than the room itself. I'll take a refill, he said. The clerk blinked. Sir, like I said, that's for members. He smiled faintly. Then maybe you should check who signed your membership policy. For a second, silence pure, suspended disbelief. The espresso machine hissed, like it understood what was coming. Derek set his cup down, eyes steady. This place was built for fairness, he thought. Let's see if it still remembers that. And that's when the shift lead stepped forward, words ready to draw the next line. The story was just beginning. The door chimed again, a soft silver sound cutting through the quiet hum of the cafe. The smell of roasted beans thickened, rich and bitter, the kind of scent that usually comforts people. But right now, it felt like smoke before a fire. Derek stayed at the counter, his hand resting lightly on the edge, calm but unshakable. The barista behind the register, tall, confident, maybe mid-20 seconds, glanced toward her shift lead. The lead, a man with slick hair and the posture of someone used to control, stepped forward with that customer service smile that hides a blade. Sir, he began, voice syrupy, we just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable here. Members usually have a certain look. The words weren't cruel in sound, but in tone, they were a verdict. Derek's gaze flicked to the brass plaque near the door. Hale Brews, founded 2016 by Derek Hale. It was right there, polished, visible, invisible. He answered quietly, then maybe you should ask yourself what comfortable really looks like. The lead blinked, thrown off. Excuse me? I ordered a coffee. I paid. That should be enough. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The student with the laptop, the one who'd started recording, froze mid-keystroke, eyes wide, phone camera trembling slightly. She whispered into it, something's about to happen. The barista crossed her arms. We've had problems before. People coming in, loitering. Her words drew a quiet gasp from the man in line, the one in the white shirt. He smirked, murmuring, he doesn't exactly look like the coffee shop type. Derek turned slowly, eyes locking on him, not angry, just measured. And what type would that be? The man shifted, muttered something about, just saying, then looked away. The shift lead stepped closer, lowering his voice. Sir, if you're not a member, you can't sit here long. It's policy. Policy? Derek repeated softly, as if tasting the word. You ever ask who wrote that policy? No one spoke. Only the grinder hummed, a constant mechanical heartbeat. The student's phone caught every word. The small red light glowed, proof being born in real time. Derek took one step back, then another. His body language didn't read like retreat. It read like preparation. He placed his cup down on the counter again, slow, deliberate. "Funny thing about policies," he said. "They usually tell you more about the people who make them than the people they target." The shift lead's smile cracked. "I'm asking you to leave, sir." Derek tilted his head. "You're sure that's the move you want to make?" A pause stretched. Then, the faint buzz of a message hit Derek's phone. One vibration, nothing more. He didn't look down. He didn't need to. That buzz meant the system was live. The student's whisper broke the silence again. "Wait, what's happening?" Derek turned back to the counter. "I'll finish my coffee first." And just like that, the balance in the room shifted quietly, invisibly. The power had started to move, and no one there realized it yet. The lead exhaled sharply. "Suit yourself." He turned toward his staff, lowering his voice. "If he's still here in 5, call security." 5 minutes. That was all it would take. 5 minutes for a coffee shop to learn who really owned the room. The next 5 minutes stretched thin like the surface of hot milk about to spill. The student's phone camera kept rolling, hidden behind a half-raised laptop screen. A quiet tension pulsed through Hale Brews. Too much silence for a place meant to smell like comfort and sound like chatter. The shift lead, now visibly irritated that Derek hadn't left, leaned toward the register. "Emma," he said to the barista, "if he's still here after this cup, lock the system. We're done serving him." Emma nodded, chewing her gum hard. "Copy that." Her voice was loud enough to draw glances. Derek lifted his coffee again, taking a slow sip. He wasn't looking at them anymore. He was looking at the logo printed on his cup, his initials. DH, stylized in gold. It almost felt like the room was mocking him with his own name. A woman in yoga gear walked in, phone in hand, chattering loudly about her spin class. She skipped the line, waved at the barista. "Hey, can I get my usual?" The barista smiled instantly, full warmth. "Of course, Sam. We've got your oat milk ready." Sam looked over her shoulder, noticed Derek, and frowned. "He's still here?" The lead answered without whispering this time. "He's not a member." Sam's brow furrowed. "Then why's he—" "Because I like the coffee," Derek interrupted, voice calm but sharp. The sentence landed like a cymbal crash. The room froze again. The barista's smile faltered. The shift lead's jaw tightened. "Sir," the lead said, "I asked you politely." Derek placed his cup down gently. "And I responded politely. You're making guests uncomfortable." "I'm a guest," he said. "You're the one making this uncomfortable." That line cracked the air. The student recording whispered, "Oh, he's good." From the corner, an older man, the morning regular who always sat near the window, spoke up for the first time. He paid for his drink. Let him be. The shift lead turned toward him, stiff smile returning. "We're just following procedure, sir." "Procedure?" the man scoffed. "Looks like profiling to me." The words hung, heavy and undeniable. Derek exhaled slowly. "It's fine," he said, voice lower now. "They're just doing what they were trained to do." The student blinked, confused. "Trained?" Emma rolled her eyes. "Whatever. You can't just sit here pretending to be a customer," Derek cut in. "Or something else?" The barista swallowed, suddenly unsure. The shift lead's radio buzzed faintly on his belt, an incoming call from the regional manager. He hesitated, then turned his back to answer. "Yes, sir. Situation's under control. Just a loiterer." Derek heard every word. So did the camera. The grinder whirred again. Steam rose. It sounded like pressure releasing, but the room only tightened. The lead hung up, cleared his throat, and said it louder this time. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Derek didn't move. He looked at the barista, then the plaque, then the student with the phone, her lens trembling in her hands. Finally, he spoke. "You might want to call that regional manager back." The shift lead frowned. "Why?" "Because in about 2 minutes, he's going to be the one explaining to me why this team failed its inclusivity audit." No one moved. The student mouthed, "Audit?" Derek took out his phone, tapped the screen once. Somewhere in the back office, a quiet ping echoed from the corporate terminal. He didn't look at them when he said it, but every word landed like a verdict. "You said I don't belong. Let's find out who really does." And with that, the clock began ticking for Hale Brews downtown. The faint ping from the back office sounded harmless, just a digital chime among espresso hisses and half-finished conversations. But for Derek, it was the sound of power waking up. Across town, in the corporate control room of Hale Enterprises, an automated system began syncing live footage from every camera in the cafe. Emma, the barista, didn't notice. She only saw the stillness of a man who refused to be pushed out. That stillness unsettled her more than shouting ever could. The shift lead snapped his fingers at her. "Emma! I said lock the system!" She turned to the register, typed in a code, but the screen froze. Then, in glowing blue text, a line appeared. Access temporarily restricted, corporate audit mode. "What the hell?" she muttered. "It's not responding." Derek didn't smile. He just lifted his cup, calm. That's the system doing what it was trained to do. The student recording whispered under her breath. "No way. He did that?" The lead stepped closer, voice rising. "Sir, what exactly are you trying to pull here?" Derek's tone stayed level. "Nothing. Just waiting for my coffee to finish." The regular by the window leaned back, crossing his arms. "Kid, maybe let the man drink. You're about to make this worse." But the lead didn't back down. "No, he's already made it worse." He pointed toward Derek. "You think you can come in here, throw tech around, and—" The cafe's main speaker crackled. A calm, female voice echoed through every corner. "Attention. This location is now under live compliance review by Hale Corporate. Please continue normal service." Heads turned. The student's phone shook. Customers began murmuring, exchanging looks that said, "This is different." Emma froze mid-motion, the milk steamer hissing beside her hand. Did that just say Hale Corporate?" Derek looked up slowly. "That's right." The shift lead's throat tightened. "Who are you?" He didn't answer yet. A few tables away, a young man in a delivery uniform whispered to his friend, "Yo, this dude might be someone." The air thickened. Phones came out. Screens started glowing. Emma tried again to log into the POS. The same blue warning flashed. "Corporate lock engaged." She looked up, pale now. "It's locked for everyone." The lead backed away, confusion mixing with fear. That's not possible unless—" Derek's voice cut him off, low, precise. "Unless the person sitting in front of you has higher clearance." The room went utterly still. Even the espresso machine seemed to quiet itself. He set his phone face up on the counter. On the screen, a corporate dashboard glowed with the logo they all recognized, Hale Enterprises. Under it, in bold letters, "Owner Own Line." The regular by the window exhaled a sharp laugh. "Well, damn." The shift lead's lips parted, but no sound came out. Emma just whispered, "Oh my God." Derek finally looked around the cafe, every pair of eyes now fixed on him. "You wanted to make sure everyone feels comfortable here," he said. "Congratulations. You just made sure no one does." He turned the phone slightly, the blue glow reflecting off the counter. "Your regional manager will be joining us any second." Ugh. As if on cue, the store phone rang loud, shrill, unstoppable. No one dared answer. Outside, a small crowd began forming beyond the glass. Someone had already started a live stream. Inside, Derek Hale waited not for revenge, but for truth to finish brewing. The phone kept ringing, sharp and insistent, until Emma finally reached for it. Her hand shook as she pressed the receiver to her ear. "Hale Brews downtown, this is—" The voice on the other end cut through her stammer. Calm, female, deliberate. "This is Carla Jensen, Executive Liaison for Hale Corporate. You are currently on a recorded line. Please hand the phone to Mr. Derek Hale." Every syllable landed like a gavel. Emma froze, glancing at Derek, then at the shift lead. She wants him." Derek took the receiver gently, his movements slow, measured. "Carla," he said, voice low but clear. "Good morning, sir. Audit is live. All staff present are now registered in the compliance log. Would you like me to proceed with behavior tagging?" The shift lead swallowed hard. "Behavior tagging?" he echoed, confused. Derek didn't look at him. "Proceed," he said into the phone. A soft beep came from the POS terminal, then another from the barista's screen. Both went black. "Systems offline," Carla confirmed. "Corporate override complete." Gasps rippled across the cafe. The student with the phone lowered it slightly, whispering, "This is real. Oh my God, this is real." Derek set the receiver down on the counter, the cord coiling like punctuation. He turned toward the staff, 3 people now standing motionless behind the register. "I built this place," he said quietly. "Every bean, every rule, every smile that was supposed to mean welcome. And yet today you used it to decide who belongs." The words weren't shouted, but they filled the room. Emma's voice cracked. "Sir, we didn't know—" "That's the point," Derek interrupted. "You didn't have to know who I was to treat me right." Outside, the live streamers pressed closer to the glass, phones raised. Inside, the only sound was the slow drip of the espresso machine finishing a forgotten drink. The shift lead's voice broke the silence. Are we fired? Derek met his eyes, calm as a storm's eye. Not yet, he said. First, you're going to listen. He stepped forward, the reflection of the Hail Brews sign glinting across his chest. You thought this was about a cup of coffee, he continued. It's about what happens every time someone like me walks into a place they own and still has to prove they belong there. No one dared breathe. Carla's voice echoed faintly through the receiver still on the counter. Mr. Hale, corporate board requests visual confirmation. Are you ready to proceed? Derek's eyes never left the staff as he replied, steady and certain, start the feed. And with that, every camera in Hale Brews downtown came alive. The security cameras above the counter blinked red, then glowed blue. Every lens pivoted in unison, locking onto the bar, the staff, and Derek. A soft click rolled through the cafe like thunder in miniature. Carla's voice came through the speaker again, smooth and cold. Visual feed confirmed. Mr. Hale Corporate Ethics Board is now live on your screen. Derek turned his phone toward the staff. 3 faces reflected in its glow, pale, stunned, suddenly very small. On screen, 3 executives appeared in silent squares. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Emma swallowed, whispering, "This can't be real." Derek's tone didn't rise. It sank lower, quieter. It's been real for a long time. You just never looked close enough. The shift lead tried to recover his footing. Sir, we were just following store protocol. Protocol? Derek repeated softly. Tell me, does the protocol say to whisper about customers who don't look like you, to decide who belongs? His words sliced cleaner than anger could. The student recording near the corner blinked back tears. She wasn't filming now, she was witnessing. The door chimed again. 2 uniformed security officers stepped in corporate, not police. Their jackets bore the Hale insignia, not a badge. They didn't move aggressively. They simply waited. Good morning, Mr. Hale, one said. Corporate oversight requested physical verification. Thank you, Derek answered. Stand by. He looked back at the staff. You see, this was never about a scene. It was a test one I've run at every location, and every time, I hope to be wrong. The regular by the window spoke again, low and steady. Guess they failed that test today. The barista's hands trembled. Sir, please, we didn't mean... You meant every word, Derek said gently. That's what makes it worse. You meant it because you believed it was safe to. A hush rippled through the customers. Even the hiss of the espresso machine seemed ashamed. Outside, the crowd grew thicker. Through the glass, a hand-lettered sign glared back from the reflection. Hale Brews. Everyone belongs. Derek glanced at it, then back to the staff. You see that? That line cost me 6 years of my life and every dollar I had. It was supposed to be more than marketing. The lead looked ready to speak, but Derek raised a hand just once. Silence obeyed. He turned toward the phone again. Carla, he said. Yes, sir? Begin personnel review. Effective immediately. The officer near the door nodded once, reaching for a tablet. As the names lit up on screen, Derek exhaled calm. Final. Let's see, he said quietly. Who really deserves a second chance in a place built to give them one? The officer's tablet flickered to life, casting a sterile blue light across the counter. 3 profiles appeared, Emma, Tyler, the shift lead, and a third barista who had quietly slipped into the stockroom when things turned tense. Each profile showed timestamps, performance reviews, and a new column flashing red. Behavioral flag. Discrimination pending review. Emma's breath caught. Sir, please, I've worked here 2 years. This was just a misunderstanding. Derek didn't look angry, just tired. Misunderstandings don't echo 3 times in one morning, he said. They repeat because no one ever corrects them. Tyler tried to steady his voice. We didn't know who you were. We thought, that's the problem. Derek interrupted softly. You thought, instead of asked. Carla's voice came through the tablet speaker again, clear and professional. Mr. Hale, per company ethics policy, you may issue disciplinary recommendations before final HR processing. The cafe was silent except for the faint buzz of fluorescent lights and the murmur of the crowd outside pressing against the glass. Derek's reflection floated in the window, superimposed over his own name printed backwards. Hale Brews. He glanced at Emma first. You have potential, he said quietly. But potential without empathy becomes danger. You're suspended until retraining. Emma nodded, eyes wet. Yes, sir. Then he turned to Tyler. You run this store, right? Tyler hesitated. Yes, sir. Then you built its culture. You set the tone. And today, you made sure a man who owns this building had to prove he belonged inside it. Tyler's mouth opened, then closed again. He lowered his eyes. Derek's tone stayed level, but every word hit like the steady beat of a gavel. You're relieved of duty, effective immediately. Carla's voice followed. Acknowledged. Employee access suspended. On the POS terminal, Tyler's login ID vanished from the screen. A quiet beep confirmed the lockout. Gasps rippled through the cafe. A customer near the door muttered, "He really just fired him. Right here." Derek turned slightly, addressing not just them but everyone watching through the glass. No one should lose their job for one mistake, he said. But this wasn't one mistake, this was a choice, dressed up as policy. He let the words breathe. Outside, someone whispered into their phone, "He's the CEO. He's firing them live." The student by the wall still held her phone, but it wasn't recording anymore. It was trembling in her hands. She mouthed silently. Finally, Derek faced the counter again. "Carla, confirm documentation. I'll finalize the report on site." "Yes, sir." Incident logged under bias test 47. He exhaled slowly, the storm in his eyes beginning to clear. In the corner, the untouched coffee machine beeped once, its brew cycle ending. Derek looked at it, then back at the stunned room. "Now," he said quietly, "let's clean up what's left and start again." The cafe was silent except for the hum of refrigeration and the faint drip of an espresso shot left to die in its glass. Every customer, every staff member, every phone in the crowd outside seemed to hold its breath. Derek remained by the counter, motionless, his presence filling the space more than any raised voice could. He looked toward the student with the phone, the one who had recorded everything. Her hands were still trembling. "You can keep that video," he said quietly, "but don't post it yet." She blinked. "Why not? People need to see this." "They will," Derek replied. "But first, the people inside this room need to understand it." He turned toward the remaining barista, a younger man who had barely spoken the entire time. "What's your name?" "Louis, sir." "How long have you worked here?" 3 months. Derek nodded. "And how did you feel when you saw what happened?" Louis hesitated, voice small but honest. "Scared. I wanted to say something, but you thought it wasn't your place?" Derek finished for him. Louis nodded. "That's what silence does," Derek said. "It teaches good people to stay quiet while bad habits get comfortable." The room absorbed his words like dry soil soaking rain. Outside, someone in the crowd whispered, "He's teaching them right there." Another replied, "Nah, he's teaching all of us." Derek gestured toward the plaque again, the gold letters of Hail Brews catching the light. "When I built this brand, I didn't name it after myself for ego," he said. "I did it so that no one could forget where it started with someone who was once told he didn't belong in a coffee shop like this." Emma lowered her eyes. Louise swallowed hard. Even Tyler, now standing by the wall, couldn't look up. Derek's tone softened. "The truth is, you don't fix bias with hashtags or slogans. You fix it by noticing who you've stopped seeing." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Phones came down. For the first time since the chaos began, the cafe didn't feel hostile. It felt awake. Carla's voice came through the receiver once more, quiet but approving. "Mr. Hale, board review confirms completion of live assessment. Would you like to restore systems?" "Not yet," Derek said. He faced the room again. "Every store has a day when its name has to mean something. For this one, it's today." He glanced at Louise. "You're in charge until further notice. Keep it open. Free coffee for the next hour, and tell everyone who walks in what happened here honestly." Louise's eyes widened. "Yes, sir." Derek turned toward the door, pausing just long enough for his words to hang in the air. "Remember," he said, "kindness isn't corporate policy. It's a choice. And today, we start choosing better." Then he walked out into the daylight, quiet, composed, and utterly in control. The autumn sunlight hit him like applause, warm, unfiltered, cleansing. Derek stepped out of Hail Brews and into a wall of murmurs. Camera flashes and phone lenses pointed his way. The glass door closed behind him, sealing the stunned silence inside. Outside, the world wasn't silent anymore. A handful of reporters had already arrived, tipped off by the live stream that had started inside minutes earlier. Their voices overlapped with the crowd's whispers. "Sir, are you confirming that was a discrimination audit?" "Mr. Hale, will you press charges? Was this planned or spontaneous?" He didn't answer immediately. He stood for a moment, taking in the faces, some curious, some angry, some inspired. Then he spoke, his tone even and deliberate. "This wasn't a performance," he said. "It was a lesson." The street hushed just enough to hear him clearly. "I built this brand because I wanted people to have a space that felt human. But what I walked into today was everything I fought against: suspicion, judgment, smallness." A woman near the curb shouted, "You handled that with grace, sir." Derek nodded once. Grace is free. Dignity shouldn't cost extra. The student who'd been filming inside pushed through the crowd, still clutching her phone. Her voice trembled. "Mr. Hale, people are already sharing the clip. It's everywhere." He met her eyes. "Good. But remember, what people share isn't the point. It's what they learn." Across the street, a bus rolled by with a billboard for Hale Brews printed across its side. Warmth, integrity, belonging. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Cameras followed Derek's gaze. A reporter asked, "Are you worried this incident will hurt your brand image?" Derek smiled slightly. "If truth hurts your brand, it wasn't worth building." He started walking again, slow and steady, his shadow stretching long across the sidewalk. Two of his corporate security officers followed at a respectful distance. He didn't need protection, just space. A man in a business suit approached from the crowd, extending a hand. "Mr. Hale, I run a franchise down in Portland. We've never had to deal with anything like this, but how do you test your staff for bias without losing morale?" Derek paused, studying him. "You don't test to punish," he said. "You test to reveal. If people know they're safe to change, they usually do." The man nodded slowly, like someone receiving more than advice, a blueprint. Behind them, the cafe door opened again. Luis stepped outside, apron still on, eyes bright with a mix of nerves and pride. "Sir," he called, "the line's growing. People want to support. Some are asking if they can pay it forward." Derek's expression softened. "Then let them." Luis nodded quickly. "And, the customers are clapping." For the first time that morning, Derek smiled, not polite, not guarded, but real. Then the cafe's finally doing what it was built for. A gust of wind carried the smell of coffee out into the street, warm and familiar. The same scent that had opened the story now wrapped around him again, but it felt different this time, earned. He looked back once through the glass. Emma was wiping down tables, quiet and thoughtful. Tyler was gone. Luis was serving free drinks, laughing awkwardly but sincerely. Derek whispered under his breath, "Good." A nearby microphone caught the word, and within hours, that one-syllable "good" would headline thousands of reposts. But for Derek Hale, walking down the street under the gold logo of his own name, the story wasn't about going viral. It was about walking out of the same door that once shut him out and never needing to look back. By the next morning, Hale Brews downtown had become more than a coffee shop. It was a headline. The story spread across morning talk shows, news feeds, and trending hashtags. Clips of Derek's calm voice, the phrase, "You didn't have to know who I was to treat me right," and the single word "good" looped endlessly. In the corporate tower overlooking the city, the boardroom buzzed with notifications. Screens played the footage over and over. Derek standing silent, composed, surrounded by the echo of his own name. Carla entered the room carrying her tablet. "Sir," she said, "press outlets are requesting statements. Half of them call it a public ethics audit. The other half call it a revolution in management culture." Derek sat by the window, suit immaculate, cup of black coffee in hand. "And what do you call it?" Carla smiled faintly. "Accountability in real time." He nodded. "Then that's the message." Down below, lines had begun forming outside Hale Brews locations across the city. Some customers came for free coffee, others to meet the man who turned quiet resistance into corporate reform. Posters appeared on sidewalks. "Kindness is the new currency." Back at the original cafe, Luis stood behind the counter, steady now. Emma was beside him, humbled but determined, offering refills to a diverse mix of customers. The sign on the door had been replaced overnight. Same logo, new line beneath it. Everyone means everyone. Inside, a mother whispered to her teenage daughter, "That's the owner who stood up for himself yesterday." The girl looked around, wide-eyed. "He doesn't even look like a boss." "That's the point," her mother replied. Meanwhile, Derek walked through the lobby of Hale HQ, greeted not with deference but with quiet respect. Every employee he passed seemed to carry themselves a little straighter, not out of fear, but recognition. A junior executive stopped him near the elevator. "Sir, some franchise owners are asking if they should run their own audits." Derek adjusted his cufflinks. "They don't need an audit," he said. "They need to listen." The elevator doors opened. He paused before stepping in, glancing at the reflection of the Hale Brews logo etched into the glass wall. "And remind them," he added, "you can't lead what you secretly fear." Later that afternoon, he appeared on a live broadcast from the headquarters atrium. The host leaned in, eager. "Mr. Hale, millions saw what happened yesterday. People are calling you a symbol of modern leadership. What do you want to say to those watching now?" Derek looked straight into the camera. "I'm not a symbol," he said evenly. "I'm a man who built something, watched it grow, and refused to let it rot from the inside. You don't fight ignorance with noise, you end it with example." The audience fell silent for a beat before erupting in applause. Carla stood just off-screen, proud but composed. She whispered to herself, "That's how history sounds when it's polite." As the broadcast ended, Derek set his microphone down and exhaled. For the first time in days, he smiled not for the cameras, but because the noise outside had turned into understanding. Somewhere across town, a stranger was being served coffee by someone who'd learned from that morning. And for Derek Hale, that was the only metric that ever mattered. 2 weeks later, the glow of Hale Brews downtown hadn't faded, it had multiplied. The company's stock rose quietly, not because of profit, but because of trust. News outlets had shifted from outrage to admiration, calling it the calmest corporate reckoning in recent memory. Yet Derek Hale wasn't interested in praise. He sat in the same corner booth of the cafe where it all began, alone, hoodie on again, no entourage, no cameras. The staff knew who he was now, but they treated him like any other guest, and that was exactly what he wanted. Luis approached the table. "Sir, the regional managers are all in the back office. They've been waiting for you." Derek nodded. "Give me 5 minutes." Luis hesitated, then smiled. "Coffee's on the house again?" Derek chuckled quietly. "No, today. It's paid for. Gratitude doesn't stay free forever." When he walked into the back office, the energy shifted. 6 regional managers stood waiting, posture straight, expressions a mix of respect and unease. The air smelled faintly of roasted beans and fresh paper, the scent of change. "Gentlemen," Derek began, "what happened here wasn't a scandal. It was a mirror. And if you're smart, you'll stop defending what you see and start fixing it." One manager cleared his throat. "Mr. Hale, we've updated the staff manuals, launched a diversity initiative, and scheduled empathy training across all stores." Derek listened, nodding slowly. "Good. But culture isn't fixed by PowerPoint. It's fixed by people who know what failure feels like." He walked to the whiteboard and wrote 3 words. Respect, presence, ownership. "Respect," he said, "means every voice counts, even the ones you don't expect to matter. Presence means showing up not to supervise, but to understand. And ownership," he tapped the word once. "It doesn't just mean holding shares, it means holding responsibility." Silence followed. The youngest manager, a woman named Mia, finally spoke. "Sir, what about the employees from that day, the ones involved?" "They're still part of the story," Derek replied. "Emma's back after retraining. She volunteered to mentor new hires. Tyler," he paused, gaze steady. "He was offered counseling and a chance to reapply in 6 months. Everyone deserves growth, even those who failed the test." The managers exchanged looked surprised, maybe even moved. "You don't build justice by destroying people," Derek said quietly. "You build it by reminding them what fairness feels like." Luis entered with a tray of coffees, setting them gently on the table. He looked different now, confident, centered. "For everyone," he said. "No charge this time." The group laughed softly. Derek smiled. "That's how it starts," he said. He turned toward the window. Outside, customers of every color, age, and accent filled the cafe, laughing, talking, belonging. He let out a long breath. "You see that? That's what Hale Brews was always supposed to look like." Mia nodded. "What do we call this new chapter?" Derek looked back at the words on the board: respect, presence, ownership. He erased them one by one and wrote just 2 words: be better. The managers stared in silence. "That's your new policy," Derek said. "Every decision, every hire, every cup, if it doesn't make us better, don't do it." Outside, the bell above the door chimed softly. A new customer walked in, greeted with a genuine smile. For the first time, Derek Hale believed the system he built could finally serve what he'd always intended everyone. Night fell gently over the city, wrapping Hale brews downtown in a warm, amber glow. The chatter had thinned, but the laughter remained quiet, steady, real. Derek sat at the same window where the story began, the same seat where he'd once been mistaken for someone who didn't belong. Now, the reflection staring back at him was different, not because he'd changed, but because the world inside that glass finally had. Luis approached with 2 cups. "One's for you," he said. "The other's for the wall." Derek raised an eyebrow. "The wall?" Luis smiled and pointed. On the far side of the cafe, above the counter, hung a framed photo still fresh, the ink not yet dry. It showed Derek sitting right here, hoodie on, coffee in hand, the moment before everything turned. Below it, in clean black type, a single line read, "Kindness isn't corporate policy, it's a choice. D. Hale." Derek looked at it for a long time, then turned to Luis. "You did this?" "The staff did," Luis said. "We thought people should remember where it started." Derek smiled. "Good. Just make sure they remember how it continues." Outside, the streetlights painted golden lines across the sidewalk. The city was alive, moving, unaware that a quiet revolution had started in a coffee shop. Not the kind fought with outrage, but the kind built with grace. Carla entered the cafe, tablet in hand. "Sir, the numbers came in. Customer satisfaction up 32%, employee retention up 20%. He chuckled softly. "All that from 1 cup of coffee." Carla smiled. "No, sir, from how you handled it." He looked down at his cup, steam rising in soft spirals. "Then maybe this is what leadership really looks like," he said. "Not power presence." For a while, no one spoke. The sound of the espresso machine hummed low, almost rhythmic. Derek leaned back, gaze drifting toward the street where he could still see reflections of people walking by, unaware they were part of something larger. "Funny," he said. "I built this place to make coffee. Turns out it brews something stronger." Luis tilted his head. "What's that, sir?" "Change," Derek said simply. "The kind that starts quiet and doesn't stop." He stood, adjusting his jacket, ready to leave. The bell above the door chimed softly as he stepped out into the cool night. From behind him, Carla called, "Sir, one last question. Do you want us to post the footage officially?" Derek turned halfway, a smile curving at the edge of his mouth. "No," he said. "The world's already seen enough proof. Now it needs examples." And the door closed behind him. Outside, the city buzzed, cars passing, conversations drifting, neon signs blinking against the skyline. But for one heartbeat, everything seemed still. Derek slipped his hands into his pockets and walked down the street, the golden letters of Hale Brews glowing behind him like a quiet promise. His voice, soft but certain, carried into the night. "I don't need to go viral, I just need to make things right." And with that, the man who once had to prove he belonged disappeared into the city he helped change, leaving behind not outrage, but order, not revenge, but respect, justice, brewed slow, served warm, and shared with everyone.